This is Richard Jacobs from myduiattorney.org, and I'm here today to interview Kavan Grover. He's a criminal defense attorney that specializes in DUI. He's located in the Atlanta area of Georgia. How you doing, Mr. Grover?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Richard?
Good, good. Thanks for taking the time, and let's get started. First question is, what motivates you to be a criminal defense attorney, and why in particular do you tend to work on a lot of DUI cases?
Well, I think criminal law is the most interesting area of law. When I originally went to law school, I was actually planning on being a patent attorney, and I soon realized that it was not very interesting and not very rewarding. Um, with criminal law, you get to deal with regular people, and despite the stigma that a lot of people have with criminal defense law, pretty much everyone in society has the possibility of facing criminal charges, and they have a very high chance of having a great impact on people's lives. And I think it's really important to for those people that they're well represented.
Right.
In terms of DUI cases, it's along the same lines. All walks of society get DUI cases, and they have a potentially huge impact on your life, whether it be employment consequences or immigration consequences, jail time, fines, getting your license suspended. So um, there's a lot to lose when you're faced with a DUI case.
Yeah, you just brought up one point I haven't asked anyone about DUI and immigration. So later, if you don't mind, I'll ask you a question about that.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so how many DUI cases do you think you've handled, and in what time period?
Well, I started practicing law in 2005, and I've been handling DUI cases since that time. I'd say it's in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 total DUI cases during that time.
Okay, wow. And then you talked about this briefly, but is there any typical DUI defendant circumstance? Are there more first timers or more men than women, or any differences you notice?
Well, I think that you know you kind of get a huge variety in terms of people that are charged with DUIs. Um, I'd say the majority of them are first-time offenders. Most people, after they suffer through the experience of going to jail and having to face the relatively harsh consequences of a DUI, they avoid becoming a repeat offender. Although, there are some people out there that get, 10 or 15 DUI arrests during their lifetime. I think in general, there are probably more males that get charged with DUI.
Okay,
Um, I think that part of it is that they're more often than not the driver
right.
when
Okay.
when a group of people go out.
Okay. And of the clients you had, is there any commonality in the blood alcohol level? Do a lot of them tend to hit the point oh 0.08 limit, or are they all over the place?
Well, they're all over the place. I've had clients that had blood alcohol contents as low as just over zero point zero 0.05, and I've had other people that got arrested and told me that after they took a breath test, they got released because they blew under the legal limit, even though they had actually been handcuffed and taken to the precinct and made to take the intoxilizer 5,000.
Huh.
You also get some cases where the person has a blood alcohol content in the in the 0.20 range or even higher. I'd say most of the cases are in the 0.08 to 0.15 range.
Okay. Out of the DUI cases you see, are more due to drugs versus alcohol? And in a drug case, are they more complicated or harder to defend?
Well, I think the vast majority of the cases are alcohol cases. Um, I think studies have been done, and a lot of people that are DUI are actually under the influence of other things as well, whether it be marijuana or cocaine or something else. But the reality of it is, there's not that many people that take drugs and don't consume any alcohol. And for the most part, if you're out on the road and you have alcohol, any amount of alcohol in you, the officer is going to just suspect DUI alcohol and have a hard time detecting the presence of any other drug. I would say that probably only about 10 to 15% of the cases I've seen are DUI drug cases. Most of them are alcohol cases.
Okay.
I think that even when the officers do suspect that there's a possibility of drugs and alcohol, a lot of them will just pursue the alcohol side of it because they don't want to have to go through the hassle of taking the person to a hospital to get their blood taken.
Oh, really? Okay. If you get a drug case, though, have you found that they're harder or easier to defend or more complicated?
Well, it depends on the case. Um, the the Georgia appellate courts have said, well, they've made a ruling in the late 90s that some judges only applied to marijuana, but it was recently clarified, and it says that if you're under the influence of any drug that could possibly be legally prescribed or legally used, then the state absolutely has to show that your intoxication under that, based on that drug, has to have made you less safe to drive for you to be guilty of DUI drugs. And for any case that falls under that purview, whether it be a marijuana case or a morphine case or most classes of amphetamines, it can be difficult for the state to prove that that drug actually renders you less safe to drive. Now, they have an easier time if they have a video and the person looks like they're clearly unable to balance and having problems.
Right.
But if there's no video, without an expert that can testify that, X amount of marijuana in your blood means that you're less safe, they're going to have trouble proving the case. And really, even if they have an expert, it's hard to know what level of marijuana would make you less safe. Some experts won't even be willing to say that, even a relatively high amount would necessarily make someone less safe to drive. So it can be a lot tougher for the state on those cases. Now, on the other hand, if you're charged with DUI cocaine or DUI for some other drug that there's no legal use of and no way you could possibly be prescribed that drug,
Right.
then there still is strict liability. I mean, if you're behind the wheel of a motor vehicle and you have that drug in your system, you're guilty of DUI under the statute. So
Okay.
those cases could be real easy for the state to prove, although I think they're pretty rare.
Yeah, and this leads into another question. Have you seen cases where someone had drug metabolites in their system, but maybe they hadn't used the substance, maybe marijuana, and they said they had smoked a week before, or mushrooms and they had used them 2 days before, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of cases, especially with marijuana, since it stays in your system for a long time. A lot of people, if they do get blood tested, they're going to show a small amount of marijuana. And, absent other evidence, that's just is not going to be enough for the state to prove a DUI case.
Okay.